Welcome to the Washington AI Network podcast. I'm Tammy Haddad, the founder of the Washington AI Network, where we bring together official Washington policymakers, DC insiders, and AI experts who are challenging, debating, and just trying to figure out the rules of the road for artificial intelligence. Today, we're bringing you two inspiring conversations recorded at the Élysée Palace during the No AI Without Women conference in Paris. First, we'll hear from Thaima Samman, president of the European Network for Women in Leadership, as she shares insights on Europe's approach to AI regulation, innovation, and the critical role of education. Then, we'll dive into a conversation with Dr. Sasha Luccioni, the AI and climate lead at Hugging Face, about the intersection of AI, energy, and the climate solutions she hopes will follow. Let's start with Thaima Samman, a visionary leader advocating for smarter regulation, trust building, and bridging divides in the AI world. Thaima is a longtime technology lawyer, communicator, and you have put together this incredible group, No AI Without Women. Now, we've recorded some of the programs, so our audience is going to see it. So I want to ask you about what's going on in Europe and AI. Can you tell us where things stand?
Well, beside the political turmoil, AI is probably the most important subject that people are talking about because it's coming. Everybody understands that it's going to be part of of our life today. So, looking what it means and what needs to be done in this area. Maybe I should say that Europe is probably one of the first geography in the world to have put together a holistic regulation in order to be able to accompany what is going to happen. You like it or not, it's there. It has been adopted before summer, but from political reason, I can dig in if you're interested. Otherwise, let's say for political reason, it's not complete. So now member states and the European Union is working on implementation text, which will probably shape more what's going to be the rules today.
Well, I know that innovation is really important here, and we heard it in everyone's conversation. But so you're trying regulation and innovation at the same time. You've done this a long time. Do you see a path forward? Do you see an opportunity, especially with the AI summit coming up?
Well, maybe we can say that I'm not governmental institution spokesperson.
Right.
So it's for them to have decided.
You're an expert.
Exactly. But so for me, regulation needs to be smart, flexible, tolerant, because we don't know what we will need tomorrow. And in reality, we have already, within the legal corpus of today, a lot of elements we can use. But we are not American. We are not a case law countries. We are written code countries. So it has to be put into written. So what needs to be done? It's a constructive and continuous dialogue between authorities and the companies to be able to adjust to the regulation we will need to address the issues that we don't know what they are going to be tomorrow. We know a few of them. They have been explained this morning. We know that we need to put in place some governance, and that in AI, like in tech in general, there is no such things as borders. So we also need to be creative into regulation. And to your point, we need to build trust for people on the different side to talk to each other, to try to find the path we need to have.
And what about the issue of people that feel like there's a divide, there's the haves and the have-nots, which have existed in society and other technologies, but today it's much more acute because of AI. What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is educate, 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 educate. We need to stop these public debates with people trying to scare the rest of the population, because this is the way for them to get the camera on them. AI is a technology which, as other technology, could be complicated to see at first, but in reality, when you put your brain in it, not that complicated. We have all agreed to do some studies to be able to have a driving license and to drive a car. So it has been a no-brainer for anybody. We need to do the same with tech. It's not immediate. You need to learn, but it is accessible and it's so useful afterwards, and it's so important to get into it that education must be the key element from the younger age to the oldest one for people to feel at ease. So we need people to be able to explain in simple and accessible words for everybody to understand that they need to better understand what's going on and how to use the technology.
But at this period of time, where all around the world people have less trust in government, who is going to take the lead on that?
Well,
I think you should.
I'm trying to take my part. So that's the reason of this event this morning. And we probably need to get out of AI, women AI expert to be able to address the rest. We are also in countries in Europe where, yes, there is a lack of trust in governments, but probably not as much as in the US for historical reasons. So government needs to take its part. And we also need to play by leverage, by the training of the trainer is very important. So civil society needs also to take the lead, first in calming down the debate, and second to explain on different parts, the education world, the training world, the companies, NGOs, we all have a part to play in it, and that's the challenge of tomorrow.
We heard earlier today that when you compare academicians and you compare private companies, there's no way that they can compete anymore. The research institutions can't lead because they don't have the GPUs. They don't have the money for the GPUs. So how do you make decisions in Europe? You're now speaking on behalf of Europe. How do you make decisions of where to put the money and where to put the compute? I mean, is there a certain section, we're going to try to own this, we're going to try to own that, because it helps our people and our values?
That's a very interesting question. I'm going to have my first answer. I will answer on research afterwards. My first answer is not because it's a technology which is private owned, that you can't put some rules in the way it's done and it's the way it's acted. And I tend to think that you have a great legal system for that. When a company is submitted to punitive damages of billion, they think about what they are doing before doing it, because they don't want to be put in this situation. So that's really a question. It's not only a question of the money to be put into research, but on regulations, rules, and the societal organizations, regulation will certainly help, even if you don't own the technology. What you need to do when you are a public person, when you are a regulator, or when you are a judge, it's to understand the technology. So laziness is not allowed. If you want to regulate correctly, you need to understand how it works and how to regulate it. Regarding research, it raised another issue, which is sovereignty. If we don't have the money to be put into research, and if other countries have financial markets which are more powerful than the one we have, and it's not a if, it's a certainty. So you need to be smart in where you put money and the condition of your money. Maybe an answer first from one of my former boss at Microsoft, which is maybe public money should go on fundamental research. This is where you have the breakthrough, because you don't know what you're looking for. And that's probably where you need to put the money. And the second element is that, but if private companies want to have access for the money, it needs to be a partnership for them to fund also the public research. That could be a way to do it. We also have research money put in startup of promising company needs to be accompanied by conditions because it's public money and see how it works. At the end of the day, I do believe in dynamics. I do believe that we don't know everything. We need to see what is going on and address the issues we identify and correct them. And when you are the public power, if you're not lazy, you can do that.
Were you surprised when President Macron reached out and said, we're going to lead in France the next AI, what was originally the Safety Summit, but Anne Bouvereau has changed it to the AI Action Summit?
Well, I know Anne Bouvereau for a long time, so I'm not surprised of what Anne Bouvereau did. And that's probably also, President Macron took its chance in talking about AI, and for a long time, he tried to put France in the map of the AI development. Maybe you don't know that, but the two best mathematical schools in the world are Paris and Tel Aviv, for different reasons. It doesn't show because it doesn't always replicate in development and innovation and businesses, but on the brain, we probably have, I don't want to sound arrogant, but we have one of the most brilliant mathematical brain in this country. So how do we transform this strength into a global strength in the AI development? I think that's what he was trying to do. So trying to put France in the map, taking advantage of this France strength of having brilliant mathematicians.
What's the name of the school? I feel like I should go there.
École Normale Supérieure.
Okay.
I'll give you the address.
Okay, great. They won't take
and
me
so
either.
Anne is gone to this school, so she can talk about it more than I can do. That's one of the best schools in the world, plus École Polytechnique in mathematical branch. So not surprising that it's Anne who has been asked to, because she has at the same time companies and know the academics for the most preeminent school in academic school in this country to try to build a bridge and partnership between the two worlds.
Okay, between now and February, when the AI Action Summit happens, what will you be doing?
So I'm probably going to continue advocating for women in AI with Anne's support, and we have some ideas in this regard. But I'm also going to go back into my everyday work, the one who pays the bills,
Right.
as I have a lot of clients involved in the AI dynamic, some of them being AI native, some of them being AI, being tech native, cloud or from other part of the tech world. Some are traditional businesses, but who needs to transform themselves to integrate those new technologies. So we are supporting them and accompanying them with strategic ideas for them to be part of this, for them that first to better understand what they are buying to, what they need to do to be safe in the AI world from different parts of the spectrum, by the way, but also how they can be better involved into this dynamic, including the AI Summit, to have a say, to show the diversity of AI and to showcase themselves as important players at the moment.
Do you have a dream of what you want to come out of the AI Summit? Something that you want companies to say, something that you want global leaders?
Well, it's a dream, given the current situation. My dream would be that this summit build the bridge for people from all over the world to discuss AI dynamic and to be able to address it together. As I was saying, there is no such thing as borders in tech and AI, so we need to work collectively.
Well, that sounds great. Thaima, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you for this conference, and thank you for promoting women in AI. There are many women, as you know, in Washington, D.C. and around the U.S., and I'm thanking you on their behalf.
Thank you very much, Tammy, and thank you also for your engagement and everything you're doing.
Now let's turn to Dr. Sasha Luccioni. She's the head of AI and climate solutions at Hugging Face, one of the great companies that are leading the way in AI. First of all, tell people about Hugging Face.
So Hugging Face is the biggest open source AI platform, and the goal is really to democratize AI, to let people own it, deploy it, to adapt it to their needs. So really, we have over 1 million models now, open source, open science models that people can download and fine tune on their own data and deploy locally. So to really democratize AI, but also in a very responsible way. So we have a lot of things about evaluation, documentation. And so I'm part of a lot of that work to help people understand what they're working with, not just a black box, but still a black box, I guess, but with more information about what the data is, what it can do, what its biases are, how much energy it uses. So really to give people this ownership of this revolutionary technology.
And what's the most exciting thing you've seen on the platform? I think unexpected, because you know this so well.
I think that image captioning is really kind of an underrated AI application. Like AI image generation, people are like, oh yeah, amazing, we do all these Midjourney things. But image captioning is actually underrated because like we have so many images out there, but like generating captions for people who have handicaps, for example, like accessibility applications, and also things like subtitles generation and all sorts of applications that you can't really think of, like describing scenes, like helping people understand like the objects that are present. Like I think like image to text is actually one of those like applications that nobody hears about, but that's actually pretty big.
Yeah, image to text. How does that work?
So essentially you take the image and first you do object detection to figure out what's in the image. So like a dog with a ball on a green lawn. And then after that, you'll detect what each object is and how they fit together on a scene as well. So you're not only parsing each individual object, but also like the scene, the context of the...
Why isn't that on Instagram?
Exactly. Like alt text should be a default on all social media platforms, because even if it's not like human generated, if it's not going to be like 100%, just having like an alternative AI generated text for each image that's out there could have huge implications, right?
And people can tell when it's AI,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So you identify, what do you call it? Watermarking?
Yeah, you can do watermarking, exactly. You can do like straight up
So you can
labeling.
make up your watermarking?
Yeah.
Oh my God, actually, make your own watermark on Hugging Face. Oh, I like that. Make your own photo, text to photo, or text to image. Oh, you can do everything there.
You can even do it text to video now.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like you describe a scene. It's kind of like the video dolly one, where it's like you say, oh, like a teddy bear with a bunch of balloons that are floating up in the air, and it actually generates a whole sequence for you.
That's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Okay, we're going to have to try it after that.
Yeah.
Now, let's turn to the really tough stuff. Climate change, climate solutions. You're the solution lady. As you look at let's first go to the power, all the power that's used for AI. What are you seeing? What are you working on that's a potential solution?
So the main project I'm working on right now is called AI Energy Score. And the goal is we're benchmarking all of the models we can get our hands on. So essentially millions of AI models on different tasks. And I'm really inspired by the EPA's Energy Star program, because essentially that's how it started. They took a bunch of dishwashers and they measured their energy use. They took the same microwaves, et cetera, and they established ranges. So what's a range from 0 to 100 of a microwave oven, for example? You can do the same thing with AI for specific tasks. So image to text, you benchmark 10,000 models that do image to text, then you establish a range. And so you can give relative comparisons. So I'm not saying this is 5 kilowatt hours. I'm saying this is an A+ model and this is a D model, because one is a lot more energy intensive. And so we're pushing this out as an additional piece of information that people can find when they're using the Hugging Face platform. So, they go on the Llama model from Meta, and they see how good it is, they see what data it's been trained on, and they see the energy consumption, and they can be like, oh, well, this 400 billion parameter model uses 100 times more energy than this 3 billion parameter model, so I'm going to use that, because at the end of the day, it's going to cost me in compute, it's going to cost me in actual money, and it's going to cost power, right? Energy.
That's a perfect thing for government.
That's what I'm trying to push for. But the thing is, I think that AI is such an umbrella term that governments are still trying to figure out what it is that they're trying to regulate or they're trying to focus on. So far, it's been these high risk systems. But at the end of the day, I think that, of course, like there are some big tech companies that use these systems, but like your average startups or your average companies will be using more task specific ones. They're not going to be doing like, Chat GPT type things. They're going to be doing like object detection for self-driving cars. They're going to be doing question answering. They're going to be doing sentiment analysis. And for those specific tasks, you can easily benchmark models and compare their efficiency and give out scores and say, okay, well, if you have a model that's on 24/7 and it's used by 10 million people a day, it has to score, I don't know, B or better in terms of energy, because otherwise it's wholly inefficient, right?
And have you figured out what the categories are? For this is really terrific. Did you make up the categories?
So we're going back and forth.
I always love the categories on energy and, whatever the issue is, right? It's good to see, when the weather's really bad, it's, this much pollution or that.
So I
you
like
could
stars.
You should do that.
Yeah, I like stars because I feel like gold stars are something that people can get like from grade school. We've been given gold stars because grades, like a lot of people like A, like B doesn't really have that much, but it's like 1-star model versus a 5-star model. Everybody wants a 5-star model, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like a hotel or a restaurant, and so I'm
Yeah.
thinking stars.
Oh, that's a good idea. So people will make up their own, or you tell them how to do it?
So we're going to have the ones on Hugging Face are going to be all the ones that, all the open source models, but we're also trying to work with big tech companies so they benchmark their internal secret models and give us the results so we can rank them too. But obviously we've had some reticence and some pushback because each company has their secret sauce and, their secret recipe. And so they're afraid if they benchmark their model and it makes them look bad, so we're trying to figure out what the incentive is to get big tech companies to play ball, essentially.
But with open source, especially with Meta, you've got people building upon building.
Exactly. So we can test all of those models. They're all up on Hugging Face. But, how about ChatGPT? How about Gemini or whatever that Google's using? How about those models that we don't have access to? We can only query via an API. I want numbers for those. But that's, of course, harder to get because it's an actual commercial product. And,
What you need is a morning show or whatever people's media thing is. Every Monday, here's the energy usage.
Right.
Something like that to integrate it because people don't think about it that way.
Exactly. And then a lot of people don't even realize that AI is material. They think it's like ethereal, that it's just like, this like, I don't know, nebulous entity, right? When you talk to Siri is not just some like AI, chatbot or AI agent. It's an actual model that tries to detect Siri, like first, like the actual word. So there's a first model running on your phone. Then there's another model running on some server somewhere in Virginia that's actually giving you your answer.
They're all in Virginia, by the way.
Virginia.
They are. It's the number one state.
Data Central,
yeah.
And then there's like data being sent back and forth. There's like, and people just don't like, and also like I was talking to someone recently about image generation. They're like, well, it runs on my phone. How much energy could it use? Because I'm using Midjourney on my phone. I'm like, well, the Midjourney is not on your phone. It's on a data center. And they don't see that, right?
No,
and that's
people
like, it's
don't
really
hear.
hard to make it, to anchor it in like, you know how much water Virginia uses? Like there's some counties that's like something like 60% of the water usage is by data centers versus like residents versus people, right? And so, and water and energy and greenhouse gases. So like, and because it's so immaterial, people don't make that connection, right? When you like turn on your engine, you can smell the exhaust pipe. But when you turn on a chatbot, you don't feel the heat.
Well, in the U.S., there's lots of conversation about Microsoft is made a deal with Exelon. It's Exelon, I believe. And it's about 3 Mile Island and nuclear. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from Pittsburgh. I remember when it blew.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was working on a local TV show. I remember it. I remember thinking I just messed up the household hint, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to die because 3 Mile Island blew. But clearly none of that happened.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is the one thing that people talk about in the U.S. is that now nuclear energy, which many think is an opportunity. Now, you're here in Europe and you're in France, number one, nuclear energy. What's your take on that?
So I definitely think that the institutional way of doing it, like they've been working on it for decades here in France. Like they've got processes, they've got, all sorts of institutions. Things take time. Like I was actually yesterday, I was on a panel with the head of innovation of EDF, which is like their utility. And I asked him, how long does it take, for example, to hook up a data center to like a new data center to France's energy grid? He said 6 to 9 years because they have so much red tape, because that's how nuclear nuclear energy should be. It should be
Right.
safe. What I'm worried about in the States is that like the big move fast and break things approach of big tech that's
Right.
been used for the last decade by big tech companies is going to be applied to nuclear. Screw the red tape. Let's move fast. Let's connect 3 Mile Island to a new data center in 6 months.
Well, it's Microsoft. They're good at stuff like that, too.
Right. And what kind of corners are going to get cut and what consequences? Like, do we actually want private big tech companies with their ethos of moving fast and breaking things to own nuclear power plants? Like, for me, that's a no. But I mean, that's kind of, for me, it's up to governments to kind of make the call or I don't know, democracies. And I don't think that conversation's really happened yet.
I don't think there's the kind of regulation that you're talking about would be necessary on a large scale. It's one thing if it's 3 power plants in all of the United States. It's another thing. But I will tell you that there's lots of companies in the U.S. talking about these mini nuclear plants.
That's smart.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, actually. But what's interesting about that is that they're a very experimental technology. They're years away from being actually functional. So all these SMR discussions, they're like 2030 discussions. The thing is why Microsoft bought or made the 3 Mile Island Accord or whatever contract is because it's so much faster to actually put back a closed nuclear power plant than to start a new one, even if it's a small one, because you're starting from scratch. And so yesterday, I was at the IEA summit about AI and energy, and they were saying for a new SMR in small medium reactor in the nuclear reactor in the States, it's at least 6 years or more to put it to make it functional. And 3 Mile Island is 3 years, but we're still 3 to 6 years out from this being a viable energy source for AI. So everyone yesterday was like, what's going to happen for the next 3 to 6 years?
Yeah,
because it's exponentially growing. Like the guy yesterday from Lawrence Berkeley showed a plot, and then data center energy use was kind of plateauing because of efficiency gains. We use more internet, but it's more efficient. And all of a sudden from 2019, it shot up. And then essentially that's mostly generative AI. That's mostly AI. And the problem is that even big tech companies weren't expecting this. 2019, they weren't expecting this boom. So they're all scrambling to get energy, and energy grid operators are also freaking out. Like, for example, they're maintaining coal power plants on longer than because they were supposed to shut them down or whatever. They're maintaining them. They're keeping them online in order to power this boom of energy, which is not supposed to be happening, right?
I don't think anyone would think it's a surprise that the new incoming Trump administration, who were focused on coal plants and didn't close them, will definitely use coal and if they can connect coal to nuclear, because they do see that there needs to be a solution. But I just wonder how, as you look at the global landscape, because you've got the whole world, AI and climate solutions, I don't know where you got that job. I don't know what you were thinking. That's really super big. But I don't know. Tell me how if you're talking to the new president of the United States or President Macron, what would you suggest that they could do? I'm not asking about a fast solution. I'm asking you what you think is doable today.
I think that currently, especially state leaders don't really understand AI. And so they think it's like a unicorn or some, unseen before technology, but it's actually like any innovation, like the internet, like anything that we've seen before. You can do the same things. You can apply the same laws. Like, for example, if you have to decarbonize, if you have to reduce your energy usage, you can also write laws for AI. It's not some magical being that will, elude all legislation. And I think that they should start treating AI as not like some magical future unicorn, but a current technology that's being used by billions of people at this point, and start treating it as a concrete thing, like anything else. Like, they regulate the car you drive, they should regulate the AI that you use. And I think that there's this hesitation and this kind of understanding of AI that's really precluding world leaders everywhere of actually acting. And so I mean, for me, I would just say not be bamboozled by these foundation models, AGI, all of these claims of that AI is going to either kill everyone or solve all the problems. None of those are true. It's just a technology like any other technology, and you can regulate it, you can measure, evaluate it as any other technology.
I think you should do this, go from country to country and tell them this
vote
is all
for
possible.
Sasha.
Is there, vote for Sasha. Sasha, is there any country that you see that is actually doing any of the things you're talking about?
Well, so what's interesting, we've seen a couple of countries that have said no more data centers. At least temporarily. So Ireland, for example, said, because there's such a concentration of data centers in Ireland, that at some point it was almost 20% of their energy. And so they were like, no more. And so they cracked down, and they're actually putting in laws because, we haven't had this happen yet, thank God. But what happens if, for example, there's a cold snap, and the data centers, they need energy 24/7, but all of a sudden residents need more energy than before. what kind of trade-off, like who could make these trade-offs? The laws don't exist. And so what they're doing now, they're actually like considering these kinds of situations and being like, okay, what will happen? Like what laws are in place and can we develop new ones, et cetera? And I think that these kinds of conversations should be happening. And maybe at the AI summit, these are the kind of discussions that will happen. Like given, every place's legislation, how can that be adapted to AI? I don't think we should be writing new legislation because that's going to take way too long. We should just be adapting. And yesterday at the IAA, there was some like former minister or something from Germany who was saying, well, this clause like 17.bf from this law that was written in 1986 actually can apply to AI if we choose to include it. And so I think we should be making these kinds of, almost backward connections and adapting them to current technology.
Well, the regulators in the U.S. will tell you that there are existing laws everywhere to handle, not specifically about energy, I'm not aware of that, but every single thing that's happened in AI. This is not brand new, to your point. It is current technology. Thank you so much for being here today. We're together at the Élysée Palace. I think we both look good here. We should come back. Let's try to get invited back. Sasha, thanks for everything you're doing at Hugging Face.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Washington AI Network podcast. Be sure to subscribe and join the conversation. The Washington AI Network is a bipartisan forum bringing together the top leaders and industry experts to discuss the biggest opportunities and the greatest challenges around AI. The Washington AI Network podcast is produced and recorded by Haddad Media. Thanks for listening.